This is my 2024 Porsche Macan loaner car, but I am not going to be talking about the quirks and features. Well, I'm going to talk about a few of them maybe, but I'm going to also tell you why I have a loaner car. So I recently purchased a new, to me, 2017 Porsche Cayenne S from a local Porsche dealer here in the state of California, where I live. I traded in my old 957, a 2008 Cayenne base model, because it was starting to have a little bit of an issue that I didn't think was worth putting too much money into. It was a very good car for several years. I changed a few things here and there, but it started having a transfer case issue, and it was around 140 something thousand miles. So I figured I'd rather get out of it and get into something else. I came across a 2017 Cayenne S with 38,000 miles here in LA, and I figured that was a pretty nice car with very low miles, and I don't drive much, so I figured this should last me a good long while. It's a triple black car. I took a test drive when I was at the dealer, and the car drove just fine. No issues really. So I decided to buy it on the spot, but I added the Porsche Platinum extended warranty that covers drivetrain, engine, all kinds of things that could go wrong. And after driving it for a couple of days, I started noticing that it was a little rough when it was shifting, especially in lower gears. And I felt that that could have possibly been the transfer case going bad on that one, as well as that was the issue with the car that I had traded in. And obviously we know that these Cayennes have this transfer case issue, and it's almost a recall at this point. The warranty for that extended warranty on the transfer case had just lapsed on that car, but I did get the warranty, the extended new car, used car warranty, whatever you want to call it, the platinum plan. So after driving it for a couple of weeks, I decided I wanted to take it in and take advantage of that warranty. I took the car in and left town for like a week. When I came back, the car still wasn't done. They said they had ordered the parts, but was waiting on Porsche to approve the warranty claim. So I got a loaner car, or a courtesy vehicle, which was this base model 2024 Macan. It is pretty hot in here, so I'm going to turn on the car. Hopefully it won't be too loud while this car runs and we can talk at the same time. So I picked up this loaner and decided to give it a good drive to see how this car really performs. This is my first time driving a Macan. I've been in a Macan previously, one of the first generations, and I have to say I feel like the old ones were a little tighter, or they definitely felt a little more crammed than this one. Could be the new center console here that is just a little more open than the old Macan. One thing that I noticed about it is this is the base model, and it does not have a lot of power, at least not until you press the sport button, which was a little surprising, being a smaller car and everything, and newer. But as far as the driving, this one drives a little bit more like a car, which makes sense because it is so much smaller, lower to the ground, and more car-shaped, I guess. The thing that stands out to me with this car is that it just feels like a car. I don't know what it is, but the Cayenne feels a little bit more special than this. Maybe the S or the GTS or the Turbo Macan feels a little more special, but sitting in this, it didn't give me that tingly feeling that some cars do, some Porsches do, and I don't know why that is. It drives nice, it's very smooth, very quiet, very comfortable to drive, but it definitely feels more car-like than my Cayenne, which is a little bit more bouncy. Funny, my new Cayenne with way less miles is more bouncy than my 957. So I don't know what happened there in the design. And if you have any thoughts on that, if you've driven the 957 and the 958, do you feel like the 958 is a little bit more floaty, or is it just my car? And if that's something I should look into, let me know, because I do have warranty on the suspension parts and everything, and it doesn't feel like it's gone bad, but it also feels a little floatier than a 38,000 mile 7-year-old car should feel like, I think. But back to the Macan. This Macan is also a triple black on the outside, full black interior, leather. It has all the bells and whistles that you might want. I was looking at the window sticker that comes with this car. The sticker price for this car is $71,300. That's a lot of money for this car to me, where it doesn't give me that Porsche feeling that I want to have. It's a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder. This car has some interesting options. It's got 20-inch Macan sport wheels in satin platinum for $2,900. They're cool wheels, but I don't know if they're worth $3,000. It also has the Premium Package Plus, which is said to be lane change assist, which are these orange lights on the mirrors that let you know if there's something that you might not see in your blind spot behind you, which might not be the most elegant way of doing that, I think, but it is the way they're doing it. It's got the LED headlights with the PDLS Plus, and I haven't looked too much into that, but correct me if I'm wrong, but I think some of those options you might not even be fully able to use here in the US. Or is that the laser matrix lights? So yeah, let me know. Ventilated seats. This is something I've never had before. I have it in my Cayenne S and I really enjoy it. It's a funny way of doing it, which everybody probably knows at this point, but it's sucking air and not blowing it, which makes sense. It would be very hard to add a whole air conditioning system into the car, but it really works well by sucking the air, the hot air from the seat. And I use it almost every time. Actually, I'm going to put it on right now. It is a little bit loud, and you might hear it right now, unless this mic filters out some of the sound, but I can live with it because it's comfortable and it's nice, especially here in LA, where it is currently, well, it's only 79 degrees right now, but it's going to get into the hundreds this summer, I think. So ventilated seats is going to come in very handy. It also has the panoramic roof, as my Cayenne S also does have that. And I have mixed feelings about that. I don't really like using the sunroof because my head gets very hot. But you don't really notice it because it has the fabric covering. But I am a little worried that it's going to be something that's going to break on mine, and it's going to be very, very complicated and expensive to fix. So yeah, if I were to order a car like this with the options that I could choose, I don't think I would do the panoramic roof just because of that, because it seems like something that's going to break, and that's not going to be nice when it does. They also spent $160 on what do they call it? Exclusive design fuel cap. When I read that, I thought maybe it was the aluminum fuel cap that you can get, which is a pretty cool thing. It is not. It is a different fuel cap, and it basically looks like the normal one. It just has some metal accents on it, like where the Porsche name is printed. It's not just a black plastic fuel cap. But $160 for that, I don't know. I wouldn't have done that. I would have bought the fancy aluminum fuel cap if I was going to do that, and then move that over to different cars. It also has the sport tailpipes in black, an option for $950 for black exhaust tips. Yeah, that seems high. Another thing that annoys me with Porsche is the entertainment system, which has gotten a lot better than it was in my 957, but in my 958 and this one, the PCM, I have PCM 4, I think, and then there's a newer version in this guy, but none of them have Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. And I do not understand why they do not have this. They have the option to add them on. There are ways of adding this back into the PCM, but Porsche, for some reason, do not include it with the car. And you can't even go to the dealer and have them install it because it's not something Porsche really does. Some 2024s and the 2025, you can add it, or it does come with. This car does not come with the Android Auto, and I don't understand why they don't do that. Porsche, do it. Just do it. Just add the Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. Just add it as a standard, because this navigation, it's borderline useless. You can search, obviously, but the problem with it is that it does not have everything. There's places I can't find, stores and restaurants. And if I had Android Auto, that would have been problem solved. Overall, the infotainment system, it's okay. It gets a little cluttered when you are out in like the main screen and you have everything going on. If you're not in like the dedicated radio app or the navigation, you're in like the main screen where everything happens. There's so many things going on. There's small little windows that do not look amazing, and it's a little cluttered. I think you can organize this and make it your own. This is not my car, so I'm not going to do it, but I think maybe you can. But just the overall layout of the navigation is they could do better. And another thing I don't like on the newer Porsches, and this goes even for the 911s, is the buttons or the lack of buttons. Now they started doing these glossy panels with the light up buttons. The problem with that obviously is if one goes, the whole thing goes. You accidentally press some of these functions because conductive or resistive. So you accidentally, like, I've turned on the max like heating by accident, and I was wondering why the car was getting so hot because I put my phone down and I accidentally touched it. Since it's not a real button, that's very easy to do. There's also fingerprints everywhere. I do miss buttons. Bring buttons back is a movement that we should all start with. I saw a review, I think it was a new 911, and those buttons, the touch panels, you press them and there was like the whole panel gave in, so you had like a click. These ones do not. They're just glossy panels that don't go anywhere, and you don't really know always if you have touched it or if you turn it on, because there's no haptic feedback, there's no click feedback, there's just nothing. You just have to look at the button to see if something changed. Actually, now that I am doing it, it does make a little clicking sound, which I didn't notice before, but it's still hard to do it. So that's something I hope will change in the future. This one also interestingly has, it's got a keyless entry, which is nice, I guess, but it's got one of those weird keyless entries, and it doesn't have a start button, which I know is very controversial. Some people like the start button, some don't like the start button, and of course, even on the new 911s, the start button just looks like a cheap start button. This one has that little half key that's always in the ignition that you need to turn. I'm not a big fan of this key thing sticking out of the ignition that I need to turn. I'd rather just have my key that I stick in and turn if it doesn't have a start button. So I don't know if this is something that was on like this generation of Macans and then they got rid of it in the future. I think the new ones have a start button, but yeah, this is a weird quirk and feature, as somebody would say. But overall, the interior is nice. The seats are nice and firm. The steering wheel feels a little thinner than my Cayenne. I don't know if this is a Cayenne Macan situation or if it's a base model S model situation. Now that I've tried both, I do prefer the slightly thicker steering wheel, as it turns out. My older 944s obviously had the much thinner steering wheel, and my 924 has a very, very thin steering wheel. I like it on those. Here, I would like to have the slightly thicker steering wheel. Another quirk I wish they had, or it's a quirk that they don't have it, is the sport button. Why is the sport button down on the control panel? And especially here, it's hard to touch the sport button because you don't know where it is. You have to kind of look down and touch this little spot on this glossy panel. I wish the sport button was somewhere here on the steering wheel where I could just easily tap it, go where I wanted to go, turn it off, and easy peasy. But they do not do this, and don't know why. It just seems like a very logical place to have the sport button where you can just push it with your thumb and off you go. So that is the 2024 Porsche Macan base model loaner car that I have that I got to try. Right now, I'm waiting on Porsche warranty or somebody from Porsche to go to the other Porsche, the dealership, to verify or inspect the claim to make sure that it's valid. The repair guy said that this is pretty common that they do. I did have it there for a week. They already ordered the parts, so they did their own check to see whether or not this was actually a thing, and it really is a thing. It does feel very rough in the lower gears, so hopefully it's going to be a quick little fix once it gets approved, but it said they might be coming in the next 24 to 48 hours, and then it's a 5-hour job to change out the transfer case. So I'm probably going to be looking at almost 2 weeks without my car, and that is quite the lengthy process. Luckily, I was out of town for a portion of it, and then they gave me this loaner car in between, which I appreciate, both so that I have a car, but also so that I can test this out and see if the Macan is in my future. And I don't know if it is. Maybe the sportier model would be something that's interesting, but it does feel more like a smaller car than like a sporty sports car. Not that the Cayenne is a sporty sports car, but the Cayenne, it just has this something that I enjoy getting into. This feels a little bit more basic